Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Thrive with Cate podcast. I'm here with Marcus Fernandez, who has his own show called Beyond the Shed. And we're going to talk today about men's health. What I wanted this conversation to be about is like what women should know about men's health. So we're going to target it to like women between like 35 and 70, which is more or less like my listening audience. And you came up somewhere in my feed just talking about men's health. And I was like, oh, this would be a great chance to like bring in, your perspective on it. Okay. So you are the author of Homeopathy at Home, the founder of Center for Homeopathic Medicine, an educator for 30 plus years in natural medicine. What also I think attracted me to talking to you about this is you seem to like really just walk the talk and want to help people in a way that's very practical and for everybody. And that's really what our brand has always been about, like primal habits, free
Yeah.
for everybody. How do we like bridge this gap between the ultra wealthy, ultra healthy and everybody else who's just like struggling to like not eat as many, ultra
Yeah.
processed food and all the crap and all the carbs and all that. So I thought we could talk a little bit about men in the shed and what women need to know about men in the shed, kind of riffing off of your brand of Beyond the Shed, and talk about mental health, masculinity, physical vitality, relationships, and societal expectations of men, especially for like the women who are trying to help their men get healthier.
Absolutely.
Give me just a second. My dog is all ready to go outside.
That's all right.
She likes to hunt these little prairie dogs, and
Oh, really?
she just saw one, and so she
Oh,
got all.
really? It's off.
Yeah. Okay, so where do you want to begin?
Yeah, well, yeah, let's kick it off. I think, look, in my experience of 30 odd years of being a practitioner, it's always the women that bring the men, you know? It's always the women that bring the men. And
Wait,
often,
pause. Why?
why? Because often men neglect their health in a lot of well, talking about certain generations. Let's look at that first of all. Certain generations, like my generation, that demographic. What, I'm 55 now. How did that happen? I'm 55 now, and it's that sort of men. I look at men in my circle and men in my groups, and we came from a generation really where you had to be tough. You were. I was brought up in that way. Very working class family. Dad went to work. My mother stayed at home. She, looked after the kids, and it was very traditional. My dad would come home from work, and he would be given his dinner first, and then we would be fed the kid. So it was a very traditional sort of
Yeah,
role, and very sort of patriarchal way of going. And each to his own. Um, so
but it
so
worked, right? Like it
yeah,
had.
yeah. I'm not knocking it. It was of its time, and it worked, and for whatever reason. Um, so, but the way that I was brought up was very much about you got to be strong, you got to be tough, you got to look after your family. Like I said, many men of my generation. So, what you find with men, often they will very rarely get advice around their health or well-being, unless there was something really seriously wrong.
Yeah.
And often, it almost is it a sign of weakness? I don't know whether they see it as a sign of weakness. They sort of seem to deny it and they get on with things and deny and get on with things. And again, I think it's very much to do with the way that we've been brought up.
Yeah.
And often it's the women in their lives that say, "Look, I think you need help," or they may confide in their wife, their partner, whatever, that there's an issue. Um, so often I see that. So I get these men booked in to see me, and I'll say, "Hey, how can I help you?" He said, "I don't know. My wife said I should
Yeah.
come." My partner said I should come. And so often, they come see me as a homeopath, sort of alternative complementary natural medicine, whatever you want to call it. And they may say, I don't know really why I'm here. I don't know whether I believe in all this sort of stuff. And I always go, great. You don't have to believe in it. Let's have a chat. And so I say the proof's in the pudding. And we sort of, is there anything that you want, well, I've got this acid reflux and da da da. But once you get men talking,
Hmm.
once you get them talking in the right environment,
Hmm.
then often they will open up.
Hmm.
They will share. And
Hmm.
we found this with doing the Beyond the Shed podcast, which I can talk about in more detail, was was once you get men in the right environment,
Hmm.
they will talk and they will express themselves.
Yeah.
So I think, and often with a lot of the men, once you get them talking, a lot of stuff can come out. A lot of so much suppressed emotion.
Yeah.
Again, I'm talking about men in my demographic now. So much suppressed emotion where they don't
Call it
share.
Gen X.
Yeah, exactly. The Gen X generation. Yeah, the best generation. No, the Gen X generation is Gen X generation, and you know, we wonder why men have so much heart issues. I used to work when I was training as a homeopath. I worked in a cardiology ward, and in the hospital because I wanted to see both sides of medicine. And so many men who'd come in like my age now,
Mhm.
heart attack, you know, and they're there in the hospital bed, and I'd find them sometimes just breaking down, upset. I'd come around the bed and you pull the curtains around the bed and say, "What's wrong?" And all this emotion coming out,
Mhm.
And what's a heart attack? It's like the heart breaking. It's like, and there was always emotion there that these really tough guys that are just kept it in, and then something happens, something physically happens.
Healing crisis that, like, cracks you.
Exactly. It cracks it open. It's like all that emotion that was behind it.
Yeah.
All that emotion that was behind it. So when we know a bit
Pause
about the
there and talk
mind-body
a little bit
connect.
about that? Like, talk
Huh?
about how will you just talk a little bit about, like, why the bottled up emotion is connected to the pressure on the heart?
Well, it's just the simple mind-body connection. You look at Chinese medicine and the mind-body connection. It's like, well, they say you can die of a broken heart, can't you? It's like, it's a thing now. It's that grief and emotion, but that suppression of emotion. That emotion has to go somewhere. And the more we suppress it, often physical symptoms is just an external manifestation of our internal state.
Yeah.
And you look in Chinese medicine, it looks at all the different organs in the body,
Yeah.
issues with the lungs, often grief and emotion, liver, anger, gallbladder, bitterness. It's not, none of it's rocket science,
Mhm.
and we hold this emotion in, and so yeah. I think for men, it can sometimes be a challenge. Well, what's interesting now, I'm seeing like my son's 15, for example, his
Mhm.
generation and the younger men are very much into their health and well-being,
Mhm.
you know? When I
Okay.
was like 15 or 16, 17, I was down the pub with my mates, getting drunk, da da da. It's like this generation doesn't even seem to do that anymore. They don't drink, they're not having sex. It's like there's a whole different, he's all about health. He's all about playing soccer, and it's a whole different way of being.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a teenage daughter and her whole posse, and again, like, not really dating, but they're a glommer, and they're, like, biking, hiking, skiing, like, they're just outside,
Yeah.
and
Doing
soccer
healthy things, doing healthy things.
and meal spacing, like, they're not
Yeah.
it's interesting to see that they're, like, just yeah, they're just way more tuned in, and that what do you think? That's because of what, the mothers? And the
You
whole
know
health
what?
yoga
I
moms?
just I just think it's a generational thing. I just think it's a
Mm.
different generation. I think there's a really great book.
Do you think it's because they don't trust the food? Like, because I think there's been so much with they don't trust ultra-processed food, like, they're questioning a lot more than I think Gen X men were.
Yeah, yes, I think there's much more awareness. God, look at the awareness. From the internet to social media. There's so much, not
Yeah,
all good, but so much information out there
yeah,
that it's just available, and they do follow influencers, and they do follow
yeah,
don't they? They follow people, which has
yeah.
sort of replaced authority. So in my day,
Totally.
at Gen X, it was the doctor, wasn't it? It was this, it was the authority.
Right. The
Now,
encyclopedia.
yeah. Well, yeah, and it's the influencers. So here's an example. We did a conference back in March called Elevate, and it was for practitioners really but it's about elevating themselves, elevating their practice. And we had an influencer on. Actually, he's just got a season on Disney Plus, but he's English. And my son, who's 15, he won't come to any event I've ever put on ever. But because Jamie Lang was speaking, right,
Mhm,
he missed
mhm.
a football match to come all the way down to watch this. That's the power of the influencer, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
they'll follow those people rather than follow authority and follow, previous generations. So I just think it's just
There's a
different.
more democratic authority, really, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
back to the people who are saying, like, "Hey, like,
Yeah.
I have to be worth paying attention to for you to pay attention to me."
Exactly. And I don't say it's always good, and
Yeah, of course.
but it is more democratic because
Yeah,
again, Generation X,
yeah,
we were told we were told things, weren't we? We
yeah.
weren't. the information was very restricted. You were told from an authority
Yeah.
what to eat. But look, a lot of it's untrue. We found out, God, I mean, what in the 1960s they were telling you, doctors were saying, or 50s probably, smoking was good for you.
Yeah.
Encouraging you to smoke. I mean, all these things that we've been told. And actually, I think, you know what, this generation are a lot more switched on. They're much more switched on to agendas, corporate greed, all that. Because they look at the historical, look at what was on Netflix about the Sackler family on Netflix about the biggest corporate fine ever ever. Was it $9.3 billion for OxyContin?
It wasn't enough.
But I mean, they're seeing all this, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they're seeing the vaccine debate. They're seeing germ theory versus terrain theory. Like they're seeing it.
and
Yeah.
they're challenging it, and they're not. And I think it's a healthy thing.
Mhm.
The only thing I would say, I'm sorry, we sort of got off track a little bit about the younger generation, but
Okay, we're
what
good.
I've noticed, actually, a generation. What's the generation now? Sort of, is it Z? I can't keep
Oh
up.
yeah, I think we're at Z.
Yeah, whatever, and beyond, older. What I'm seeing is, especially in education, which I'm involved in, is people's ability to deeply think
Yeah,
is definitely
not
going
so
down.
good.
Not so.
Not so good. Not so
And
good.
why is that? To critically think, not to accept. And I think it's because there's so much surface of
Yeah.
information, be it social media, YouTube, it's
Yeah.
just surface all the time, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
surface all the time.
Have you followed Cal Newport's work? I think he's an MIT professor. He wrote Deep.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Deep Work.
Oh, the book. Yes, I was going to say that's
Yeah.
not the book. Yeah,
Just
Deep
the
Work. There you
concept,
go. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a thing. That's a
That is
skill.
definitely yes. It is definitely a thing. So,
I'm wondering how more, I mean, I know we're all over the place, but we'll keep going with it for a bit and
right?
then we'll come back to men in the shed. It's like, so how much more are we going to go to kinesthetic then? Like to kinesthetic, like more hands-on, more like activity-based
I think
learning
there's
opposed to this just like audio visual. Because I think this other thing that I noticed with, my background's yoga and Ayurvedic medicine.
yeah,
And so we work a lot with polarity therapy with opposites, right? With pulsation and opposites, like just the pulsation of the life force, right? And so
yeah,
it's like the grandfather clock, right? So the pendulum's going to swing one way. Well, guess what? It's coming
and
on
it's
back.
in the
So
other.
the more we're doing like this, then people are just going to, like, the generation's going to throw it out the window and be like, I actually want to touch something. I want to feel something. I
Yeah.
want to tact. So my daughter is going, she just decided what college, she's 18. She decided what college she's going to. And it's all like, she's going to become an architect, I guess, or like she's going to architecture school. And it's all like hands on, and we
Yeah.
really sat with it a lot. And she was like, yeah, I just, like I could just go like learn a bunch of stuff in my head, but like
Yeah.
it'd be so much more interesting to like go interact with like,
Absolutely.
real realm.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. So we do a practitioner course in person in London, and then we have an online practitioner course. And it's funny, we've got graduation about to come up next month, and people will fly. And we've got students in America, all over the world. They'll come, and when you're speaking with them, when you meet, because you mean they've been training for 4 years,
Yeah.
they actually can't help but touch you because it's almost like, oh my God, you're real.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a really because we are. That's what we are. It's about human connection. And what my theory around this, and it's a good point you're bringing up. I think the more, and I talked at a conference about this recently. The more we go down the AI route, the more. And I'm not against AI. AI is here. It can be very useful. It can enhance things. But I think the more we go down that, the more AI slop that we get, and it's here already. Like you see it on YouTube all the time, and different things, and in people's writing and things like that. But the more we get the AI slop, I call it, the more AI, the more HI will become important, and people will crave human interaction.
Yeah.
And so
Totally.
I think that's what will that's the pendulum going back the other way. Not everybody, but we will. Just like music, Cate. Just like music. So music. Remember. Now we are talking Generation X. You could buy an album, and you would save money. You get down to the record store. You buy an album. You'd study that album cover. You knew every single part of that album cover. Hold it physically. Get the plastic. Learn the lyrics. Put it on. Now, my kids, they just flip on Spotify. Get any song, anything that's ever been produced like that. Now we know that is amazing. I got to admit, it's still amazing. However, not the same, but we got something to compare it to.
Mhm.
However, what the artists aren't making any money because it's cheap to produce. It's a digital thing. So what's become the premium? Live music.
Live music. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I went to a concert a couple of weeks ago. Oh, it's just so amazing, and everybody, you can feel
Yeah.
everybody just wants to be there
Yeah.
to feel that
Yeah.
human connection, you
Yeah.
know?
Experiences, totally. So I went online. I was a digital nomad in the 90s. So when I started yogahealer.com, like I just went online in like 2000. And then I had made a lot of money in my coaching company. And so then I bought real estate with that money, like cool places, and it's all lifestyle based. So cool places I want to live, like surf break, lake house, ski house, like that kind of thing. But it was never about me wanting to have all this stuff for myself. It was like to be able to like have cool experiences in
Yeah,
different
yeah,
places.
absolutely.
So now we're merging the coaching with the real estate because people are understanding more and more the value of in real life transformational experiences with other people
Absolutely.
who are growing, and they're saying like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how good I feel just in the room," right?
Yes,
Just in the room with the
yes,
right people with some
yes,
structure around what we're doing together. And that's
absolutely.
really what we do in Club Thrive is we teach the structures for
Yes,
collaborative intelligence.
yes,
And
and
then
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Sorry, you just reminded because this conference we just had, is Elevate Conference. It was exactly that, 2 days, and it was like, "Why is this being" people said this changed my life, and I'm thinking, "What was it that is what was so powerful?" And you've actually hit the nail on the head. What was powerful was this: there was a structure, but it was the coming together.
yeah,
It was the shared experience, and it's almost like we're rediscovering again.
yeah,
It's like we're rediscovering that how amazing human connection is.
yeah. Well, I think we're discovering it and we have
Rediscovering, yeah,
well, I think we're rediscovering it, but we have structures that we've never used before, and I think
yeah,
that's the emerging edge that I'm really seeing is like, wow, what like, 'cause I teach a lot of strategy and structure and thinking structures, and so if people don't know thinking structures, it's like it's like just starting design thinking, and you'll find
yeah,
there's thinking structures. That's probably the
yeah,
easiest way, and then you'll start to see in anything that you've learned that there's different frameworks or structures, and so when you get people using, especially visual
yeah,
thinking, when you get people using the same structures to solve problems, then collaborative intelligence goes through the roof. Whereas when we
exactly.
just like brainstorm or talk or have conversational chitter chatter, it goes down to often lowest common denominator.
Yes, yes,
So how
yes,
do we, like how do we activate both? And I think what you're saying is that reconnecting to like we always sat around the fire together. Like we always
exactly.
sat around the dinner. We always broke bread together. There's things that we always had apprenticeships between, let's say, father and son to pass on a skill set, mother and daughter to pass on a skill set.
Absolutely. And I think it's that I think, we need to be more human than ever. I think that that connection is innate within us. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's innate.
It's in
It's
it.
all we've got to do is we've just got to drop into that space.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote a book on, called Uninflamed, and then I took out the primal habits from it. One of the habits was commune and the science on like we're an ultra social species. Like we look
Yeah.
at the bees, we look at the whales, and then we look at humans, and it's like, whoa, we have super advanced intelligence,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
best when they don't use that advanced intelligence because they're just consuming rather than collaborating. Okay, so
Exactly.
let's get back to men because last
Yes.
night I was with an extended family member. He'd been married, 4 kids. Uh, we'll say married 35 plus years, married kind of young, very religious person in a very strict religion. And he he just basically like walked away.
Wow.
Like just was like, peace out from his partnership with his wife.
How old
And
is he? How old is he?
58 maybe, something like that. And I mean, almost without a word, but he felt like he had just bottled himself for decades,
Yeah.
met all the obligations, like all of them,
Yeah.
checked every box on the obligatory list, and felt like he said he couldn't quite name it, but the closest he got was like a disappointment. Like he was always in this like he was disappointing her, and
Yeah.
he wanted to see if, and I thought this was so ingenious, like he wanted to see if alone he felt he was disappointing himself.
Mm.
And so he needed that
Space.
space, and I was like, "That's so cool he didn't get sick."
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? You
Absolutely.
know, because 'Cause I'm wondering if he kept going another year or something, like what would have happened, etc. So, not a lot of relational skills, like not a lot of like being able to connect and communicate around that,
Mm.
which was very challenging or is very challenging still. So I just want to talk a little bit about like men communication skills, like communicating their feelings
Yeah.
and communicating some of their health needs.
Yeah.
And how do they even notice what they're noticing, especially if there is some sort of like armor or numbness, or just, I don't even know if they would feel it as armor or numbness. It's just like the way things
Oh,
are, where you just don't feel
yeah. Well,
any
you said it's
stress.
interesting you said that word numbness, because I've had a lot of men over the years that said, my wife, my partner, they said, "Why don't you say that you love me?" And they say, "I want to, but I just feel numb. I just can't. I know I love her, but I can't say it. It can't come out. It's like it's stuck. It's stuck in here."
Uh,
So it's not as though often men don't want to. It's often that they don't know how to, or there's actually they can feel almost like on a physical level. Obviously, it depends on the men. Not all men are like this. Some men are more open than others. We know that, but I think it's interesting you said about the. That's why I asked the age of your extended family member, because I've seen a lot of men, especially around the age of 56, start having a real crisis
mm,
of what am I doing with my life? Who am I? Disappointment coming up a lot.
uh,
This is not how I thought life would turn out for me.
mm,
Um, and and it's interesting we talk about 7 year cycles. It's like, the 7 years, like 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 56.
mm,
And again, if I'm I don't know how deep you want to go with this, but we look at astrology and like Saturn returns, it's almost like a double Saturn return.
yes.
It's a very interesting time. I've noticed that a lot. 56 for men particularly
Hmm.
is an issue, but just like it's an issue when men retire. Men retire and often they'll get very depressed, they'll die.
Mhm.
The stats around that. It's like because men are often very driven. I'm not saying women aren't, but men, again, of a particular generation are very driven. It's like when two men meet, the first thing they'll say to each other is, "What do you do?"
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
what you do is so crucial. It's like,
Yeah.
so when you remove that purpose, when you remove the reason to get up in the morning, and as we know, it affects relationships because all of a sudden, like the person's around the house all the time when they were, it's like that can cause issues, can't it? But yeah, I think it's an issue. And I think if men, well, like what you said about your extended family member, uh, it's almost like they've got to go and find out who they are.
Yeah, totally.
But
Yeah.
that used to happen in India, didn't it? But that used to happen. You talking about Ayurveda, you know about Indian culture. That used to happen in India. I think the first 25 years and the next 25 years. I think when then the third phase was they would go off. They would
Vana
leave the family. Yeah,
Vanaprastha, you go to the forest.
yeah, go in the forest, like go to the
My recent it's interesting, I'm finding so much with, like, because I started yoga and enlightenment studies in my it's pretty hardcore after coming out of, like, global environmental change, climate, working in international environmental nonprofits to, like, how do we raise human consciousness? Then I went deep into human consciousness and enlightenment
yeah,
studies. And what's interesting now that I'm in early 50s, I'm 53, and I'm seeing like, oh, like Qigong and yoga is really meant for Vanaprastha stage of life. Like it's
yeah,
really meant for later,
yeah,
for when you're just sort of over, like, what the world has to offer you. And you
exactly.
kind of
Yeah,
know what relationships have to
yeah,
offer you. And then you're like, where am I with me? Right.
mm,
And how do I take that up a few notches? So do you
yeah,
wanna just orient men into, because maybe, like, some woman's like, "Hey, dude, you should listen to this." What are some of, like, the early signals or signs where, like, they don't have to wait till the heart attack, or they don't have to wait for
right.
the health crisis, they don't have to wait to blow up their relationship, or they don't have to wait to, like,
No,
have estrangement from their child, or, like, to wish that they had said these things to their aging parents, or you know what I mean? Like, there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
much on in midlife.
Oh, totally, and what you said is absolutely right. So, these different stages of life. I mean, I like being in my 50s, but, it's interesting how it creeps up. Like, I'm 55 now. I'm only 2 years ahead of you, but it doesn't it creep up? It sort of suddenly creeps in. How the hell did I get here? But you do, but it's a good age. I like it because you see, you just see, you got the wisdom of life, as you said. You sort of, you know it, you've seen it. And you're right about the qigong. I remember going to China. I backpacked around China when I was in my early 20s. Probably when was that? The sort of like early 90s, mid 90s, and when people didn't really backpack around China. But I remember coming across all these elderly people who were doing qigong. They were
In the
all doing it. They were, in the parks. Yeah.
Around the same time. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
they're doing it everywhere. And again, in India, seeing all the yoga and all the breathing and what they call it, pranayama, what they call it,
Yeah,
the breathing,
pranayama.
the
Yep.
pranayama. But I think it doesn't have to get to a point where it's a crisis. And I think it goes back to awareness of ourselves. And unfortunately, a lot of time things have to get to a crisis point before people or men will actually do something about it. But obviously,
Yeah,
there's
but let's
things
break that
men
down.
can
Like,
do.
why?
Yeah.
Can
Why?
we like hack it? Can we hack that so it doesn't? And it's not
Yeah.
that crises aren't super useful. It's just that sometimes if we have some tools before the crisis, it's so much easier to navigate the crisis.
It is. It's very true. And look, a lot of people come to, like, again, say men, for example, and we're talking about things and health and well-being, and I try to do things really very grounded for people, because we can have all this knowledge, but it's what use of it. You can't be talking from up here somewhere. You have to go down to where people are at.
Yeah.
And I talk about this meds thing, which it's an acronym which means something to somebody. So I talk about, M is for meditation or mindfulness, E is for exercise, movement, D is for diet, nutrition, S is for sleep. Because I get a lot of time people say, well, I don't, what should I eat, or what should I do? What exercise should I do? So I go through these 4 things. So I say, look, M is for meditation or mindfulness. I'm an old school, probably like you. Meditation is what I did in my very early 20s. So I've been on this path a long time as well. And, that can be for 5 minutes. Whatever you want to call it, mindfulness, whatever you want to call it, it's just somewhere where you are getting out of everyday life and time for you. Some people call it prayer. Some people call it contemplation. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
We know the research on meditation and what it can do on the immune system and everything. It's a cornerstone of my life, and it can be 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be woo-woo. So that's why get up. I'm talking to men. Some things they can do. E is for exercise and movement. The men have got to move. What I see with men, so many times men come to me with issues on the prostate, right? Prostate issues. And what are they doing all day long? They're sitting down. If they're working at home, they're sat down all bloody day on.
And they watch the game on the weekend.
Then they watch the game on the weekend, right? They go and get some lunch, and what do? Go back and sit down again. Or if they're working outside, if they're not active in a job, if it's a very sedentary, like office type job or corporate job, it's different if they're moving around. But if often they're not, and that pressure on the prostate is constant. I mean, there was a study done in Sweden that said sitting is now, I mean, I think it's quite well known, is worse than smoking.
Yeah.
That whole thing of sitting.
Yeah.
So I say move. Well, I can't. I'm at a desk. Well, I do it. I set my phone for an alarm every sort of like at least 40 minutes. I'll get up and I'll go and I'll walk around, come back, sit down. I've got a standing desk, all those little things, but really just move.
Yeah.
And for men of a certain age, and you know this as well, Cate, if they're going to go to the gym, they're going to do something like that, strength exercises is so crucial, at this sort of age as well. They've got to do some kind of strength work rather than running a marathon, because that's what often men do. They'll go, right, I'll start running. I'll start, and then they haven't run since they were 10, and then they get to the knees, and I'll just start with some basic strength exercises,
And so with that, it's like, go get a trainer, right? Like,
get a trainer.
Sign up, like, get educated, figure out how to do it, follow some guys on YouTube, like, change your algorithm, right? Like,
on what is good. And I don't know whether it's for everybody, but particularly for men, if they get a trainer, say they get a one-to-one trainer, they're accountable. And once men are accountable, it's like there's that thing that goes on. There's a little bit of competitive that goes on, and it's good. To be accountable is good, because you're not going to not go to the gym if somebody's expecting you.
Yeah,
and it's good getting somebody's a bit younger for guys, because it's their ego. Because remember, we all still think remember, this is a bit of advice for all the women listening out there. Most men are very basic, right? They are very basic in their outlook in life. There's some very basic drivers. We know what they are: sex, food, eating. Some very basic things, and very much they're like that.
Yeah. I watched this funny YouTube short, and it was great. This gal nailed it in terms of like sales. And it was like, sell women confidence, sell men status, sell sick people health. And it was like, oh yeah, status. And that's what you're naming, is like, there is a body status. Like, let's have a body status. Let's have a little bit about, like, because I saw I'm in my Montana house, and I don't have, like, a good healer network here like I do in Wyoming and in Mexico, the other places that I live, where I have my people that work on my body or work
Yeah,
with me with my body, right?
yeah.
Even though I'm a wellness
I
pro for 30 years, right, I
yeah,
have my
yeah.
team,
I
and
heard you one of your episodes talking about going to see the osteopath. You went to
oh,
see the
yeah,
osteo, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And oh my gosh, like, I was so missing my osteopath yesterday, who's in
yeah,
Mexico, the best, Greg Susi. And so I went and saw a chiropractor, and I was like, "Oh," after, like, 10 minutes with this guy, I was like, "I need to shop around." Like,
yeah,
I haven't, because I usually nail it, but I
yeah,
didn't nail it, and I was like, "Uh." So let's talk a little bit about, like, you might not be the first person that you meet in terms of a man and a personal trainer or a strength
yeah,
trainer,
yeah,
and
yeah.
how to do that, maybe that shop around so you find someone that actually does motivate you, that you do feel resonance with, that you can take advice from.
And I think that's absolutely crucial because you've got to go, like you said, I mean, I went through quite a few personal trainings because they weren't quite right. You've got to get somebody that's sort of on your wavelength that you can work with. And as you said, it's like shop around because I'm employing this person, right?
Yeah,
If you're serious on this, it's like this is what you're gonna be very clear what your goals are, but it's got to be the right, I mean, I had this personal trainer and this is because I got really into personal training when I was about 47. I thought, no, I really want to work with somebody who's younger than me, who, I need something to really push me. But this personal trainer, my God, I start the session, he'd be talking to me, and he'd say, "Oh, what you doing at the weekend?" It's like it was Monday morning. It's like the weekend. What are you talking? It's like that mentality. It just had nothing to say to me. I don't want to talk when I'm training. I just want to train, and I want you to push me as I'm training.
yeah,
So I think it's crucial. You've got to get a real. It's just so good for men, and going to the gym and seeing you get to know other people there, and it's just a real. It's really a very. I know for me as a man, I needed that. I needed to be around male company because I'm surrounded by women. I teach women. I treat a lot of women. My team's a lot. I need to be around men. I just do.
yeah,
It's something that I need to motivate me and to be around that.
yeah.
Not that you're gonna be a gym bro, and it's but you've got to
Right.
just be around that sort of, I don't know. I've met some great people, in those environments.
Yeah.
Can I go into the last bit about the food? I said
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
men.
yeah, of course, meds. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do
yes.
it.
Just because I get this asked so many times. People
Yeah,
go on to the diet thing. People say, men say, "What shall I eat?"
yeah.
I say, "Well, start eating real foods." And they'll go, "Well, what do you mean real foods?" I said, "Well, if your grandmother would recognize it, it's a real food. If it's coming out of a box packet, it probably ain't real. Just start off, 80% of what you eat is real. You can
Mhm.
cheat 20% as you're
Yeah,
starting off, but 80 should be that. Then the last one is S is sleep. And we know that's the most important thing of all of it,
yeah.
because often
So
men
let's
will,
go into that. Like, what if they're an adrenaline addiction? What if they, like, fall asleep, they're exhausted after work, they fall asleep, then they're up in the middle of the night, they're
yeah,
scrolling, they're doing
yeah,
s they're getting the
or the
blue.
drinking as well. So a big thing I see is men will drink in the evening, then they'll fall asleep and then they
Oh,
wake up
right,
in the
yeah,
night.
have a beer, yep.
Yeah, yeah, and they wake up and then because you haven't had decent sleep, so I talk about look, the first thing I said, your bedroom, wherever you're sleeping, has got to be your sanctuary. Okay?
Mhm,
It's got to be your sanctuary. And the first thing I say, because if they say they can't sleep, so where's your mobile phone? Where's your phone? Where's your cell phone? Oh,
mhm,
it's near me. Where is it? And they say it's under my pillow. Okay. Why is it under your pillow? Oh, well, I use it as an alarm clock. Yeah. Do you know that tower is trying to connect every so many, times and I said, "Look, can you switch it off?" "No, I can't switch it off." "Why?" "In case I have an emergency." "Okay, how many emergencies have you had in 6 months?" "None." "How many in a year?" "None." "Okay, once you put it in the corridor, in the hallway, so you'll be able to hear it if there's an emergency, but it's not by your head." So it's all
mhm,
these little things. But yes, that whole adrenaline state, it's just saying, "Look, try not to eat 2 or 3 hours before you go to sleep." Transition into going to sleep. You have to know. I mean, one thing I did, and I really learned this. I remember my kids were little, so I'd be working, then I'd go home, but I'd still be in my office in my head, and I wasn't present with the kids.
mhm,
And I always remember my little boy. I was working on my laptop. It was in the evening. He was about to go to bed, but he kept trying to shut. I think he must have been about 2 years of age. He was shutting the laptop lid. I was saying, "Don't do that." Don't. I suddenly realized it got this insight. He just wants my attention. I'm not present. I'm not present. I'm coming into through the door, and I'm still at the office.
yeah,
And the one thing I did, which is a really good tip, and I've shared this a lot with men, is if you say you're driving home, you get in the driveway or whatever, to spend 2, 3 minutes
yeah,
just to transition from going from work into the home, because your kids want you to be present.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want you to be present, which is so, so, so crucial.
So let's do that. Let's do that 2-minute transition, because I've helped people with this that binge eat after work, like, because
Yeah.
working with women who, like, if they're done with work was stressful, they walk in the kitchen and then there's like, and they just keep inhaling until they go to bed. And so it's like that couple minute transition in the car. Kind of walk them through how to do that, what to do in 2 minutes.
Well, I mean, I just get them to use the breath. I just get them to use the breath, inhale for 4, hold for 4, release for 4, nothing for 4, inhaling. Just that over a couple of, just the box breathing.
Box breathing.
Yeah, we know it regulates the vagus nerve and gets that, it's just very simple. Again, nothing complicated. Nothing complicated. It's like, just make it, very simple. I talk sometimes about just get your feet on the grass. A bit of ground.
Having the intention of being emotionally available while you're doing, it's like you do the box breathing, you know why you're doing it. You're being so that you are transitioning between the chaos of work and life and responsibility and everybody else, and you're giving your nervous system a reset by opening that connection to the vagus nerve, by hitting that parasympathetic button instead of just being in reactivity.
And regenerate state. And actually, what I do is, I mean, my kids are older now, but I still have that. Just also imagine your children. What you coming into. What sort of father do you want to be as you walk through that door? And it's really powerful for men. I've had so many men have said, "My God, I've just things have changed for me. So much. I'm present. I want to be present. I want to be a dad. I don't want to be a bad dad. There's a lot of men guilt, as you know. They want to be a good.
Talk about men guilt. Let's go there, and then we'll go to meds. I know we're all over the place, but it's okay.
That's all right. We well, I really let me talk about the Shed podcast and why we did that, because this I learned a lot about guilt from doing this from men. So the reason why we started. So my son hit about when he was 13 years of age. That was the time when my dad left. He left us. So it was an important time. It was an important time. And, as you go through the process in life, those milestones that your children are hitting, you start to also hit those things yourself. You're going back around it again. And I thought, what's it like to be a young guy now, coming into becoming a young man and becoming to be a man? And I just did a bit of research around it, talked to a few men, and then I saw the statistic that the biggest cause of death of men under the age of 50 in the UK is suicide. Whoa. Biggest cause of death of men under the age of 50 is suicide.
Oh, yeah, it's true in the US too. Yeah. Under 50.
Same in the US, yeah. Second cause of death, biggest cause of death, is accidents.
Yeah, car accidents.
But actually, a lot of those accidents are actually suicides, but have been missed. He drowned. No, he went out there to die. And that was shocking for me, Kate. It really shocked me, because I thought, my God, how come nobody's talking about this?
Yeah.
All we're hearing in the media is toxic masculinity constantly.
Yeah.
And totally.
And it's white privilege, toxic masculinity, all that. Yeah.
This whole thing is like,
that's tied into the whole disappointment thing. So, right.
Yeah. And it's like, well, how come we're not talking about this? We've all got, people have got sons, they've got brothers, they've got fathers, they've got uncles, they've got male friends. This is like a silent epidemic, but nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
Well, they're not talking about it in the UK. And so I thought, how can we do that? Now, obviously, I've been a practitioner for a long time, 30 odd years. So I thought it'd be great I know men will talk in the right environment. So we started this podcast. So in the UK, I don't know what it's like in the US, but in the UK or wherever people are listening in the world, in the UK, we have this thing about sheds, and men of a certain age will go to their shed. And often they'll go to their shed to mess about and, with things, tools, whatever they'll do, but actually to get away from the rest of the family. So, and if you read Men Are From Mars, Women on Venus, which is a great book for men, because I learned more about, I remember buying it for which was my girlfriend then, is now my wife. I bought it for her for a present. And she said, I think you need to read this. But I learned more about men than I did about women in that, about how I behaved. The thing about going off into the cave, that's could be reading the paper, watching sports on TV, going to the shed.
Yeah.
And so we called it, I was going to call it the shed. And I thought, no, I want to go conversations beyond that. So we built the shed here in London, and we built a studio. It's actually a shed with tools and everything. And then we just I did it with a friend of mine who's older than me. And he's got a really deep voice. He's from London, so he's got a Cockney accent, but he's like a gangster. He sounds like a gangster. Really deep voice, and he makes me say, "All right, my sound." It makes me sound like I'm on helium.
Like
But
Peaky
anyway,
Blinders.
and we just invited men in, right, to talk.
Mhm.
And what was really interesting, and we've had so many different types of men. We've had young men, we've had older men, we've had men, ex-professional soccer players, we've had men who have just got a stage 4 cancer diagnosis going through treatment. We've had men who've been in prison. There's one guy who's a big time drug dealer, he got like 35 years. He's come out and he's written a book about, amazing life story. But it's all about challenges that men have gone through. We had a guy, a professor, who one of the big universities here in London, who wrote a book about masculinity. Just some really, really interesting characters.
Yeah.
And in fact, we had a guy there who is an author, and is a psychotherapist, written a lot about trauma in children. And here's an example of what comes up. So people come in, who they live, and we've had famous people as well. But who they are, we leave at the door, and they come in, and it's just 3 men talking. And we start off, we shoot the breeze, as you say, talk a bit of shit, talk about this, and then something will happen, and I think this is just this me being a practitioner. We follow the thread. Somebody will say something, and we follow that thread. Things that have come up so much: fathers, obviously, mothers, but fathers a lot, and the sons, guilt, shame, all these things. And what happens in that therapeutic space, because that's really what we're creating, that they open up, and there's tears, and there's anger, and there's all this stuff that comes up. And I give you an example. This guy is one guy who's wrote a book about trauma. He's a very well-known psychotherapist, but he wrote this book about trauma. And he said, I don't know whether I should say this. He said, but I remember being at a workshop, mainly women, and he was facilitating it. And he said to the group, he said, what, my biggest regret of being a child? He said that I was not told how to punch somebody, punch another boy.
Yeah.
And he said the whole group, what could you say? He said, no, you don't understand. He said, I was bullied relentlessly. I was bullied relentlessly. He didn't have a dad around, he said. I had no male role model, because if I had learned how to punch somebody, right?
Yeah.
The bullies would have backed down,
Absolutely.
And as men, you get it completely, right?
Yeah, you get, and I love how like Joe Rogan and Lex Fridman have talked a lot about this, because they were both they both learned how to fight for self-defense, and it's like, yep, one for being a nerd, another for being a smaller guy, and it's like, right, like this is it. Yeah, I mean the whole thing with like ADHD, ADD, and boys, and not being physically like not being in that grappling, wrestling, like body to body intelligence.
It's important,
I'd say it's critical.
Oh, critical. Yeah, exactly. So this is what this quote came up in the podcast. It was that especially younger guys, confused of how to be. They don't know how to be in the world. They're told, be more like your sister, or more. It's like, but the historian we had on said, but what people don't realize is, if there's a war, the first men that are signed up are the young men. Go and fight. Go and fight for your country. It's like, what? Who am I? And then people say, well, don't listen to Andrew Tate. And they're saying, well, who do I listen to? Who's our mentors? And I've seen this with my son in the soccer team. Those boys, 14 or 15, when their coach says, well done, boys, or to an individual player, well done, you played really well, tap on the back, it lights them up. They are looking for that male role model. They're looking for their mentorship, you know?
Physically.
Yes, physically, but also mentally and emotionally, on all those aspects.
Yeah.
But some of our biggest fans of the podcast has been women.
Women recommending it to men.
Yeah. And women saying to me, I've learned more about men listening to our podcasts than I've ever learned with 20 years being with my, husband. So it's been a very, very, very interesting thing to do. And I've learned, Cate, so much about myself. And the day after, because this is long form, like an hour and a half, the day after, me and John, we have to have a download session on the phone, because it brings up so many issues.
Mm.
for ourselves.
So
And
talk a little bit more about the guilt that you're seeing, like what are
oh,
the guilts that are coming up, and
it's
so that people feel more like, oh, that's not just me, because when
yeah,
we're living in our own head.
of course, yeah. Well, a lot of guilt, especially for men around the children. The biggest thing you hear is guilt around the kids. Not spending enough time with them. Spending time away from them. A lot of men saying, guilt when the relationship has ended, and
Oh, wait, let's go into that, the not spending enough
yeah,
time. 'Cause one of the things that I had a really great business coach, because I'm much more masculine. I'm much more of like a she's one of the boys. I tended to do a lot of sports with boys, so I just have oriented that way. And I had a coach early on, another woman business coach, and she's like, yeah, you're not a cupcake mom, like you're not going to be like that type, but like look at the quality over the quantity,
mm,
and like work that angle. And
yeah,
she had 4 kids. She exited at like 100 million. Like she knew what she was talking about, right? And so I look at that and I'm like, right, how much of that for men is that really the message? Is it's not really about the quantity of time. It's more
no,
about like putting that phone down, and then we have to work on communication skills.
exactly. But like you said, what we said before, it's being present, right? It's
Mhm.
being present. That's why it's called a present. It's a gift. It's being present with your children.
Yeah.
And and the guilt they find is that yes, they work too much because they wanted to
Oh,
provide, but from that they feel they've lost it. They don't have, or then it ends up getting divorced, and then the kids are
right.
living with the parents, and now the kids are growing up, and they feel like they've lost that they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Right. So let's look at that. Let's look at like, okay, working too much, because like scope creep is everywhere right now, right?
Yeah,
Where like work creep, scope creep, and so like, and this is where we look for we look for like the strong masculine. It's like, can we have some boundaries? Can we have some structure? Like all these
yeah,
things that, according to every holistic paradigm, it's like that's in the masculine.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Where we need
yeah,
to 80/20, we need to take a step back and say, if, well, like 20% of my actions are driving 80% of my results,
yeah,
then I don't need to work so much. I actually just need to get much more effective at
and
communication,
productive.
at
Yeah,
boundaries, at
yeah,
focus, about maybe calling some shots that need to be
yeah,
called.
yeah. Absolutely. No, I think I think I'm going to use the word masculine and feminine because that's what it is. It's not about men and women. It's about masculine and feminine, isn't it? And it's that those drivers. And I think that, yeah, we just got to, you know, look what they said about technology. Oh, and technology will make life easier. Actually, it's not. It's increased. It's increased. Who ever gets to the bottom of their emails? You just don't. It's impossible. I always say emails is your email box is full of other people's agendas.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting that work life balance back. But again, I think some of the younger dads are a lot better at this.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen,
Uh,
I think they are more aware of that. Now, I don't know if it's because the way they've been parented, but I think I don't know. Some of the young guys I know with kids, they're much more balanced with it, and more than my generation ever
yeah.
was.
Well, I've probably heard about boundaries a lot, because like boundaries is such a
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a big thing, isn't it? But I think they've seen how they were parented. Just like I'm parenting my kids is different than the way I was parented. We were told what to do. Kids shouldn't. My thing was my family was like my father was very strict. It's like kids were seen but not heard, sort of type of things. It was like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have a much more open dialogue with my son and my kids than I did. Before. So I think I've got faith. I've got hope in the younger generation coming through. I think they're a lot more. I think they're a lot more aware. I do think they're more aware, and I think they are more understanding. But
Yeah.
I just don't want it to go too far the other way, you know,
Mhm.
and which it can easily do, I suppose. But yeah,
So let's go back into I wanna go back into sleep. So we'll go back to, like, the cell phone addiction and sleep, and, like, using the cell phone to fall back asleep or whatnot, and then
yeah,
you wanna bring in some, like, supplements or homeopathic suggestions in there too, of, like,
yeah.
what
Well, there's plenty. Yeah.
break phone, there's, like, separation anxiety from the phone,
Well,
and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's studies showing that, isn't there? I mean, in fact, I had it with a young guy yesterday, no, the day before, a client. He's about 22. Exactly this about his phone. He can't sleep. Da da da. And there's certain things you have to do as well. It's not just about taking supplements and a remedy, but it's
Mhm.
about his lifestyle as well. I said, look, the best thing you can do, which I've done, and it definitely works, is put my phone on grayscale, right? Turn the
Mhm.
phone onto grayscale at number one. Makes a huge difference. When you pick the phone up, it's gray. You don't particularly want to pick it up. And, you've got to get really, really strict with it. So the first thing you do in the morning, the best thing is not to have your phone in the bedroom. That's what,
Mhm.
so I put it downstairs. Sometimes I put it in my car, it's away from me.
Mhm.
And then get into a routine. So for example, it depends how old your kids are, but the young kids, there's a whole routine, isn't there? Getting into bed, but
Mhm.
then you've got to have a routine of getting to sleep. So again, pick a
Right.
book up, read something, do something that pulls you down again. Um, Personally, I don't find TV has that much of an effect for me personally,
Mhm.
but for a lot of people, it can be overstimulating because if you're in a highly stimulated state, then you've got to come down, haven't you? You have to come down. But I think just having some kind of routine and bedtime routine. Now, as
Yeah.
far as supplements are concerned and things like that, there's some really basic stuff. I mean, just things like valerian tea or chamomile. I
Mhm.
know people don't like that, but it has an effect. Back
Mm.
to box breathing again. Just some simple things people can do.
Mhm.
Um, I found now the kids are a bit older, me and my wife will go for a walk after dinner.
Yeah.
Brilliant. We get some good time together. It's only like 15 minutes with the dog,
Yeah.
you know, but you come down again, another notch, isn't
Yeah.
it? And another notch. So there's always going to be times in our life which are stressful. We know that.
Yeah.
But if we can build in a routine, and this is what it's about moving the needle every day and doing something
Yeah.
that, especially around the sleep, where we don't have any electronic devices in the bedroom, no TVs, got to pull them out. It's got to be a place of relaxation. No heated blankets. What do you call them? Those electric blankets or electromagnetic fields. It's got to be a place of sanctuary.
Yeah.
And then obviously no blackout blinds, or it's got to be dark in your room, a certain temperature. I mean, I'm a bit of a biohacker, Kate. So I've got, I don't know if you've come across 8 Sleep, the bed. It's like
Mhm.
an AI monitored bed that changes the temperature, my side and my wife's side, according to
Mm.
your own biorhythms. Okay.
Wow. Wow.
So it keeps you at this and so you go into deeper sleep for longer. You go into REM for longer. It's an amazing, but anyway, that's for another time.
That's
So,
awesome.
but there's these simple things you can do, but you've got to take responsibility. You
Yeah.
have to draw the line and say, okay, I'm going to commit to doing these small things consistently,
Yeah.
even if you just start this thing in the car when you come home from work, or just something where you reconnect to who you are again.
Yeah. I mean, that to me is really like the bottom line, right? Is like we want, especially with masculinity in general, is it's like about defining oneself. It's about taking
Exactly.
agency back and not necessarily like being one of the herd, but like really being in your individuated
Yeah,
power, right?
absolutely.
All of these biohacking, it's like, yes, biohacking. I mean, I call it N equals one or always be experimenting. It's like
Always.
that is your agency. Like, the more you're just going along with what the algorithm wants you to watch next, the more you're losing that agency, you're losing your communication skills,
Absolutely.
losing your essence, right? And then you're feeling frustrated, guilty, shamed, just you're just out of
That's what
the
happened again, the guilt and the shame and all the stuff that built, and then you go, "Fuck it," and they end up getting pissed and having a,
yeah,
that's what happens, and, I mean, I don't drink anymore. I stopped drinking a long time ago just because I wanted to wake up. I was drinking too much at the time with friends and stuff in the pub all the time, big in the British culture,
yeah,
and I had enough. At 28, 29, I thought, "I don't wanna do this. I wanna wake up. I don't
yeah,
wanna be like that," and yeah, I think it's really crucial. I mean, it's funny saying about the biohacking. I mean, I had a guy who recently, he was very depressed, split up with his wife and his kids. And I said to him, look, do every day, just do a cold shower. Start off
yeah,
with,
yeah,
see if you can get to 10 seconds. I said, but I want you to get to a minute, right? But
yeah,
do it a little bit every single day. I
yeah,
can't do that. I don't like the cold. I said, trust me. I said, I can guarantee you it is impossible to come out of that cold shower in a bad mood,
yeah,
right? And he
yeah,
tried. By the third day, he texted me, he said, I've got to a minute. I feel amazing.
yeah.
Didn't need a remedy. He didn't need any medication. What he
Yeah.
needed was
It was years ago, the guy who started, like, US cryotherapy, he's like, a lot of people think, it's like the movie stars, it's the athletes. It's like, actually, at a certain level of wealth, people use it for sleep because the whole epinephrine, norepinephrine cycle. So I
yeah,
had hip replacement 2 months ago, and I'm at my lake house in Montana, and the water temperature is about 40 degrees, and I'm in
right.
it. I wear neoprene on my feet, my hands, and, like, my midriff up, And other than that, I'm just in my surf shorts, and I do all my walking exercise in there for, like,
Yeah.
20 minutes a
Wow.
day,
Wow.
right? But I sleep like the dead, and, like, the amount of healing, the anti-inflammation effect, like,
Yeah.
it just is night and yeah, I'm such a huge I actually used cryotherapy. I had cancer a few years ago. I have Lynch syndrome, and uh, I had a turbo tumor from vaccine exposure.
Wow.
Wasn't
Wha
vaccinated, but I got massive vaccine exposure on an airplane to Europe and, started bleeding. Uterine cancer started bleeding within, like, 48 hours of the plane ride. It was nuts, like, the whole and I wrote a book on it called Witch's Cancer Journal. So anyways, like, after and I have Lynch syndrome, so a lot of my extended family members have cancer, right? So I've seen the whole, like, "Oh, people die of chemo, oh, radiation, they lose their bowel function or their urinary," like, I'm, like, not
Oh,
interested. So I did cryotherapy for my radiation, right?
wow.
Yeah, wow, it
Mm.
accelerated the arthritis,
Yeah.
but then it took care of the cancer. So
Yeah,
that was
yeah. Amazing.
and yeah, it's like, wow, the power of cryo, like, there's nothing like it.
Oh, well, listen, I think the advances that are going on at the moment, I mean, like things like, I don't know what you feel about peptides and things like that, and the whole thing that's
Yeah,
going on at the moment. I mean, it's
yeah,
incredible things.
incredible.
But your body's got the most tremendous capacity to heal.
Yeah,
And this is what people tend to forget. It's like I always say, look, and this might be a bit controversial, but the pharmaceutical industry is not in the wellness business, it's in the
yeah,
sickness business.
yeah,
And as long as you know that's their business, fine. But it
yeah,
doesn't mean you've got to be part of it.
yeah,
There's many things, this from doing yoga, Ayurveda,
yeah,
all that wisdom, healing wisdom, we're
yeah,
ever going to need is within us, and we just got to tap into it. And it
yeah,
doesn't have to be expensive. So we're
no,
talking about high biohackers. Yes, there's some very expensive things. No, and that's why I like Gary Brecker. Met Gary a couple of times,
mm,
and he says just go out in the morning, get the sun with have any coffee, get the sunshine, have your cold shower, get your feet on the ground,
yeah,
and that will set you up. Do your breathing, that will
yeah,
set you up for the day.
yeah, yeah, do
You
a
know?
little fasting now and then, like
Yeah, 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 exactly. Well, I intermittent fast, the best thing I've ever done, and it just suits me down to the ground. And so these little things that we can do have huge impacts on our lives.
huge. It's
You
huge.
know?
Yeah,
And it's like, it's just so to every listening, it doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to have lots of supplements and this and that. There's many things you can do
yeah,
where you just go, I always say it's like a key to a lock. You just stimulate the body to heal itself and it knows what to do. So, yeah.
yeah. Well, it's been awesome talking with
Well, we
you. It
talked a lot of subjects there.
was great. We covered a lot of territory, Marcus. It's been an
Yes.
absolute pleasure
Yeah.
to
Well, thank you. Thanks, Kate. Really lovely to speak with you.
and I'll just point people to your website. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
marcus-fernandez.com.
Yeah.
And from there, you can find Beyond the Shed
Yeah.
and lots
Yeah.
of other information on homeopathy.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Kate.